Okay, so let's now understand what are arrays. Okay, an array is a homogeneous collection of elements, and I hope that you have some basic idea about arrays. But anyway, now that is a sequence of elements identified using a single name. And going forward from here, we start dealing with the reference types. So in Java, it is a pointer, and you need to allocate the memory using the new operator. Okay, so new int of 5 say creates an array of 5 integers, and its reference is held in ARR. Okay, it looks something like this. So we have an array of 5 elements, and its reference is held in ARR. So this is how it is. So if you are not sure about what this arrow is and what this pointer is, something like this, now assume that this array is at a location called let's just say 1000. Okay, let's say now this array is allocated at the address location 1000. So ARR is a variable that holds the address location, so where the actual array is. So this is called as reference variable. Okay, so reference variable is nothing but a pointer, a variable that holds the address. Okay, when I say integer variable, a variable that holds an integer, right? So reference variable, a variable that holds the reference. That's nothing but an address. Now this memory is allocated using the new operator. So new int of 5 will allocate some memory, and then its address is now held in ARR. But from here on, accessing the array elements is quite straightforward. In order to access the third element, you can simply say ARR of 3. Rest of the things remain the same, except that you need to have this in your mind. Okay. And Java also supports two ways of initializing arrays. You can directly give the values like this, or later after the declaration, you can also say ARR equal to new int of without specifying the size. You can immediately initialize the array. So both ways it works. Now let's see this with a very simple example. So I'm going to create an array of 5 integers. Let's say some 5. Now I want to read the values into the array. So int I'll declare a variable. Now in order to read the values from the keyboard, I want to connect to the scanner. So scanner, some variable name equal to new scanner of, connect it to standard input stream system.in. Okay, let's import this class from Java util, and then you can start reading. So enter the values into the array. So for I equal to 0. So to find the length of the array, you can use the array length property. So ARR.length gives you the length of the array. So you don't need to maintain a separate variable. Okay. Now I will say enter ith element. So now this is one way of doing it. So enter and followed by the value of I concatenated with the value of I, and then followed by the element. Or else, if you are familiar with C language printf statement, so %d and you put a /n, up to you. So /n is optional, but you can say I, and for that you need to use printf. Okay, if you do printf, that's fine. Now enter ith element and I want to read it. So which is an integer. So ARR of I equal to scan dot next int. So this reads an integer and its value is now kept in ARR. Okay. Let's print the values. Values in the array are, okay, so I'm going to tell you the first way. So I equal to 0, I is less than ARR.length, I plus plus system.out.println ARR of I. So this is one way of doing it. You have another way. So that second approach is, now values in the array are, and here I can say instead of the standard for loop, so we can say for each integer element in ARR. So Java supports for each loop. So for each integer element in ARR, you simply print that element. So it brings one by one, element one by one, and each value is placed in ELE or element, whatever the name that you variable name you want to give, and you can make use of that value. Now, what is the difference between this and this? Here you have array element as well as its index, but here you only have element. Okay, that's the difference. So this is a simple read and print operations on an array. So let's run and see what's the outcome. So 10, 20, it's error. I run it again. Okay, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now this is the first for loop. It printed the values, and this is using the second array for loop, okay, for printing the value. So this is your first example on arrays. In the next example, I will show the initialization and I will start writing some functions, okay. See you in the next lecture.